So we're going to find domain and range of the graphs. We have 6 graphs that I'm going to go over. I did put red arrows so you know which graph we're talking about and it'll connect. The domain are the possible x values on a graph. So what I'm going to do is I'm only going to look at the domain for all of these so you can see what we're looking at. So for the first circle, the x values are between here and here. So notice I'm identifying or I'm creating boundaries on my graph. So the domain is going to go from -6 to 0. That's my interval. I'm going to use brackets because those are actual numbers that the graph is touching. For the second one on the bottom, the x values, well, because there's an arrow on both sides, it's going to the left and it's going to the right. And if I'm looking for x values, I'm looking horizontally where this thing is going. Because of that, the domain is going to be all real numbers. So -infinity to +infinity. And then for this third one, I can see that the graph is actually going to stop or start, however you're looking at it, right here. So on the right side, it stops. And on the left, there's an arrow, which means it's going to go forever. So the smallest value is going to be -infinity, and that always gets parentheses. And it's going to stop at -3. That's a real number. That's going to get your bracket. Now that's just looking at x values. That's just the domain. We're going to go back to the same problems, and now we're going to do the range. So the range, we're looking at the y values. So we're looking at the vertical space up and down. So going back to the circle, the y values are in between those two numbers. So the smallest number is 1, and the largest number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That would be your range for the first one. For the second one, if we're looking at the y values, there's only one y value because it doesn't go up or down. So the range is one number, which is -5. That's it. There's no interval. You're done. For the third graph, again, we're looking up and down on the y. If we're looking at where this graph goes vertically, there is a line going up with an arrow. So before we said the arrow's going left, the arrow's also going up. It doesn't stop. Going down, same thing. There's an arrow that's going to continue going in both directions. So this range is going to go from -infinity to +infinity. That graph's going to keep going up and down because of those arrows and where they're pointing. So that's 3. We're going to do 3 more. So if you want to pause the video and practice those, go for it. They look a little different, but same thing. We're going to go through the domain first and then the range. So the first graph, we're looking at x values, and there's only one x value, which is 8. That's it. For the second one, the x values, if we're looking left, this graph, even though there's no arrow written, there should be, is going to keep going to the left. So that goes to -infinity. To the right of the graph, there's an arrow. That's going to go to +infinity. So that would be your domain. And for the third one, your x values actually start at 0, a real number. So that's a bracket, and then it's going to go, there's an arrow, to +infinity. That'll go forever. And now let's look at the domain, or the range. So the y values, this goes up, this goes down. So the first graph is going to go -infinity to +infinity. For the second graph, the y values actually stop at +5. And then the graph goes down. Doesn't matter which direction you look. There are down arrows. So the smallest number or value is -infinity, and it's going up to 5. That's the largest actual value. So that's why there's a bracket on the 5. And the last one, again, if we're looking at the y values, the smallest number is 0, and that is going up. It's increasing. that's going to go to positive infinity. So hopefully the different colors and looking horizontally and vertically will help you see these questions right so that you could do domain and range of graphs.